I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV and Channel 99. Our guest today is Regina Jorgenson, who has recently joined the Maria Mitchell Association as the Director of Astronomy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
But you're not a newcomer to Nantucket.
No,
You've been
I
here
am
before.
not. Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Sure, yeah. I first came in the summer of '97 as one of the research interns in the astronomy program. And that happened to be the same year that Vladimir Strelinsky started as Director of Astronomy. And so we all together, that group sort of had a year of discovery, or a summer of discovery, where we were trying to figure things out and learn the ropes.
And understand Vladimir.
Exactly. And understand Vladimir, yeah. And it was, needless to say, a very inspirational summer for me. It was
Where were you in school?
I was at the University of Puget Sound, a small liberal arts school in Washington State. And I'd done other summer research experiences, but this was by far the best one, because Vladimir is so great.
What attracted you to Nantucket? I mean, you presumably read about this through a posting somewhere.
That's right, yeah. Well, I just wanted to get those research experiences, actually. And then, I learned Nantucket was an island, and it had Maria Mitchell had a very cool history. I also got really interested in women and astronomy and physics issues, and so learning about that history was really fascinating for me as well, and really attractive. And then learning about the history of intellectualism on the island was very attractive for me as well. And then that combined with this great research experience that I had with a superb mentor in Vladimir it really changed my life, actually, and inspired me to keep going in astronomy and in physics. And so
where have the stops been along the way since then?
Lots of
1997
places.
to 2016.
Yeah, lots of places. So I traveled for a year after I finished my undergraduate degree, because I got a Watson Fellowship that allowed me to travel and study women in astronomy around the world, actually. And then I came back after that and lived on Nantucket for 3 years, working as the assistant director with Vladimir. And so I helped out with the student program and sort of did things that I'm doing now. And so I sort of had a precursor for what this job would be. And then
which always helps.
Yes, which helped a lot. And of course, get to know year-round life on Nantucket, which has its own uniqueness to it, let's just say that. So that was, I really had a great time. But I had to go back to graduate school, basically, to do anything in astronomy. To do research, you need a PhD.
Right.
And so I left to start a PhD program at UC San Diego, and was there for 6 years, getting my PhD, which is actually in physics, but all of my research was in astrophysics. Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, I did a postdoc position. This is the typical path in astronomy. I went to the University of Cambridge, the Institute for Astronomy at the University of Cambridge in England. So I lived in England for 3 years. And then at that point, I won a National Science Foundation fellowship that I ended up taking to the University of Hawaii. And the reason
you've traveled around.
I've been around, yes. Always over oceans, too.
That's right.
I've had to move across oceans. And so I was in Hawaii for 3 years, which gave me access to the largest optical ground-based telescopes in the world, which was important for my research. So that was a great experience as well.
What is your field of research?
I study galaxy formation and evolution. So I am interested in questions like, how did our Milky Way galaxy come to be? And so I try to use these large ground-based telescopes to look back close to the beginning of the universe, as close as we can look, and look for stars and galaxies that are forming, and try to learn about that process and how that happens.
Have we also seen stars and galaxies disappear?
Well, we certainly see stars disappear in the form of supernova. In fact, one of the earliest recorded supernova was in the year 1054.
Which before 1066.
Yeah, so this was recorded by the Chinese, and we now see the remnants of that supernova. It's called a supernova remnant, as the Crab Nebula, which is something you can actually come and look at through our telescopes out at Loynes on a dark night. So
I'll do that sometime.
Yeah,
definitely. So now you're here again, and you are responsible for the REU program.
Yes.
Has it changed much since you were participated in it?
I think the spirit of it is the same. The spirit is really learning by doing, and that's been always the philosophy of Mariah Mitchell, and that part is still very much intact, and I very much support that. I think in one way it's changed is we have a lot more applicants now than we used to. It's become a very, very well-known program and very popular.
And hasn't gotten any bigger.
No, that's right. We are limited in size, unfortunately, because of housing. We can still only take 6 students every summer. But this year, I just finished this process of reading. We got over 200 applications. And so this is really the top.
Do you have any idea how many there were in 1997?
I do, because I helped read the applications, well, not 97, but a couple years later. And, we were around 100, basically. So I think it's more than doubled in this time, yeah. And I know just from being out in the astronomy community, if you're an undergrad and you are interested in astronomy, this is one of the top places to come. So pretty much everybody who's applying for summer positions will know about Mariah Mitchell and apply here. And so and so I just gave 6 offers, and they were all accepted as first offers. So
is the ratio of women to men pretty much still the same?
That's always going to stay the same.
5 to 1 or something like that?
It's 4 to 2.
4 to 2.
Yeah, and that's a function of our housing.
Right.
And I actually think it is a unique feature of our program, because actually Vladimir came up with this phrase, a mixed gender female dominated environment for science, which is unique actually, because there still tends to be the problem of a lack of women, representation of women in all STEM fields, but particularly in physics and astronomy. And so encouraging that type of environment is something that is part of our mission as well. So.
Yeah. How are you going to be able to further your research being based here?
Yeah.
And not having access to those large optical telescopes in Hawaii?
Yeah, that's a great question. So fortunately, astronomy is such an international field these days, and I have collaborators now all around the world, in part because of my career path.
Around the world.
Yeah, that's right. And so I still have collaborations with people who have access to these large telescopes. And a lot of large telescopes actually, like for example, the Hubble Space Telescope, anyone can apply for. So you don't have to be at a particular institute. So I will
watch it on your computer. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. You just get the data on your computer after the fact. So through my collaborations, I'll be applying for certain telescopes, and then I'll be just applying myself for sort of time on Hubble, and looking forward to the next generation large telescopes and space telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope, which should be launching in 2018. Very excited about that. So.
Yeah. What about the public outreach part of your job?
Yeah. So we are continuing to grow. One of the things that we hope to do actually is to make, of course, we do a lot of public outreach during the summer with our open nights and our tours of the observatory. And we'll continue to do that, and I think those are very effective. One thing we really want to do is try to grow to become a little bit more year-round. And there's several ways that I hope to do that. We actually just had a group of high school students from the Phillips Academy in Andover here for a week-long program where they used our telescopes and they did some other tours of the island and things like that, and they had a fantastic time. And then right when I got here in January, we had 2 students from Bennington College do a field work term. They were here for 6 weeks doing research. So I hope to continue doing things like that, and also to eventually find funding to have a year-round student or 2 in the sort of post-undergraduate but pre-graduate school phase, which is really a need in the community. There's a lot of students who are not yet ready to go straight into grad school and want to sort of work and gain experience for a while.
And they're hard positions to find.
That's right. And so it would be fantastic if we had the resources to hire a couple students like this, and then of course there would be a bigger staff to do more public outreach events, and we could have more open nights and things like that.
Because in the summer, the research undergraduates fill that role too.
That's right, yes. So one of the things I'm very proud of about our research program is that the public outreach component is a very important part. Their main job, of course, is their research, but all of the interns learn how to run the telescopes, how to give a public open night. And by the end of the summer, our open nights are pretty much run by the interns, and people like that. They like to talk to the students. They like to hear about the research that the students are doing. So
And
I think it's
kids
a natural
particularly
fit.
like
Kids
that.
in particular, exactly,
Yeah.
because they look up to the college students, and that's the right age. So, well, one of the things I really want to do that I think is possible in the near future is get remote access going for our 24-inch telescope out at Loynes, which is our research telescope. Right now, to use it, we have to be out there, which is fine, and it's great for purposes to be out there. But sometimes it's cold out there, and it gets late.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
there's no heat out there.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things that would be fantastic is to get that telescope set up with remote access so that we don't have to actually be out there. We could be either at Vestal Street, or here's a great thing, we could be at the high school and use the telescope. And so this would really not only make it much better for research, but I think it would increase our public outreach because we could go to the high school and we could let the high schoolers observe and see what it's like remotely without having to even go out there. And also, there's other things like
Yeah, but
handicap
that's part
access.
of
Of course, going out there is still something we want to encourage,
right.
but you could imagine a high schooler doing a research project that requires them to observe many nights and not having to go out there, but they could do it from the safety of the high school, as well as handicap access, which is more difficult at Loynes, but
Right.
you could perhaps imagine that happening at the high school. So I think there's a lot of, could be a lot of benefit to both high school, middle school, community school, and just sort of becoming a bigger presence in the community if we were to get remote access going on that telescope.
What's the price tag for something?
Yeah, something probably like $20,000 to get a full system up and going. You need to install a weather station. We would need to modify the dome and the slit so that they can open on their own, and the weather station, of course, to watch out, for the weather. So it would be something like 10 to 20K is what I've heard as estimates on that. So.
What are your sort of personal goals while you're here in this job?
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a dream job for me, actually. So, it combines all of the things that I love, which are research, which is definitely something I hope to continue doing and plan to continue doing, because that's what drives me, really asking those questions and trying to find answers to the sort of big questions about the universe and how we got here. And then working with students has always been a very rewarding experience. And then the public outreach, which is, of course, also rewarding. And so I would say, to sort of continue doing those things. I also have a mission to make Maria Mitchell more well-known in the world, in the broader United States and in the world. I think it's a shame that I hadn't heard of Maria Mitchell until I was in college and started to look into these types of research programs. And so it would be nice if every school kid knew who Maria Mitchell was,
That there was a website, for example, that every teacher could go to
Yeah,
get a unit on astronomy, basically?
Yes, exactly. And then with the history of astronomy and the role that Maria Mitchell played, I think she should be featured prominently in history books as one of our first great explorers and really one of our first great female scientists. And so I think that's really important too.
Yeah, I think the fact that she was the only female member of the Academy of Sciences for 90 years.
Yes, yeah.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So I have a dream, actually. Here's my kind of crazy dream, that someone decides to make Mariah the movie. There have been a lot of biopics recently about famous scientists, right, with Stephen Hawking and Turing, yes. And so I think it's time now that there's a woman scientist, and Mariah's perfect, I think, for that. And there's so many great stories about her life that could be told. So, yeah.
Well, Regina, thank you so much. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll get you back on again and update it at some point.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.